What is up, fellas? Hopefully all is well. JPS delivers here. We got Madden NFL '09. Got the likes right here of Jason Campbell and company going up against the Saints this week, but we're going to look at the MVP race. We got Mark Bolger, Bengals quarterback, the guy who just stomped on us at the beginning of the year, throwing pretty well for that team. Vince Young with the Giants, LT, 49ers, Matt Hasselbeck, Ravens, and of course, who other than to be in an MVP race than Eli Manning? Don't think that's ever happened. Then offensive player, of course, LT's on there, but Leon Washington had to take a gander right here. 83 overall, but the man's performing quite well. Chester Taylor as well. So a couple familiar faces on here, but three really just surprises out of nowhere, especially Justin Fargas, like fucking Fargo, but Fargas, who injury-prone player, but he's getting 800 yards on the ground, couple touchdowns as well. But Mr. Morrison with the Buccaneers, Boley with the 49ers, Thornton Jags, Pace Titans, and then, of course, DJ Williams. The dude's a stud for the Patriots team, and that's definitely one of our biggest rivals. Makes sense, that team is definitely defensive-oriented, but we're going to take a gander at the standings right now. 5-2 at this point of the season. I think we're technically in Week 9. I've already had the bye week. Bengals with that Mark Bolger team. MVP race, hey, number one player on the number one team at the moment. Broncos 3, Colts 4, Raiders, Texans, Titans, and then Ravens to be 8th place. Niners with LT 5-2. You got the Packers, Giants at 3, Cardinals 5-2. So it's a very competitive NFC. So it's got to be pretty top heavy with the bottom teams being absolute dog shit. But hey, we got our matchup right here. It's the New Orleans Saints against the New York Jets here at the Meadowlands. 5-2 Jets team up against a 4-3 New Orleans Saints team who is technically led by Matt Moore at the moment at quarterback, Ronnie Brown at running back. Got a young Braylon Edwards for this team who eventually plays with the Jets after a couple very solid seasons with the Cleveland Browns. But Peter's out in his career. Gonna have to say any other names I cannot recognize, but hey, we win the toss, we win it. We're going to defer technically to the second half, so we kick it off away. But already a nice little pickup in free agency was it Ndambi Asamoah, but the dude, the dude's beasting and feasting. We got ourselves a 3-4 setup on this defense with Terrell Suggs on the outside with Derek Johnson. It's got to be one of the better setups. When you think of 3-4 defenses around the time, maybe the Steelers had a better setup for linebackers. In real life, Steelers, of course, we're talking about this fantasy franchise with this Jets team that technically it started off with a CPU drafted. So I don't even remember what place we were in the first round or whatever, but just simulated the entire draft. And we end up with Jason Campbell at quarterback, so we're going to have to deal with some shit, but Aqib Talib is making them deal with shit only for us to deal with it ultimately. It's going to be defensive pass interference, so the interception is a no-go. Huge changeover of momentum right there. It looked like we were going to have the ball, but again, it looks like Matt Moore really just wanted to fucking throw that interception. Unfortunately, this time Aqib Talib drops the interception, but this defense is hungry. Like I said, we got a couple studs on this defense, including a Mr. Rude, who does play rude when it comes to the opposing team's halfback. And speaking of just a nasty rude play, got Roy Williams on the outside, easily the number one target for Jason Campbell in this offense. We do have a young Deshaun Jackson as well. You will be seeing him later on in the game. Pierre Thomas is in for MJD. He is out for just this week. But the way this offense runs, it is kind of missing a big piece, obviously, not only because the man is good, but just because the offense runs through him. And right there, y'all know me, when I'm running these like 9 routes, I'm going to have to correct myself quite a bit, which actually ends up leading to missing some of these long balls that, for the most part, some of these quarterbacks can place them pretty well. I know Jason Campbell in real life, maybe not the best at doing it, but the dude's got a great arm. But at the same time, we've improved his throwing accuracy. But on that one right there, just surprisingly enough for us, get lucky on that throw, able to adjust the route for Roy Williams for a first down. Pierre Thomas on the outside should get about 4 or 5 yards now, 3rd and 5. And that pass is just going to be flat out dropped. It wasn't Phillip Rivers throwing it to Mr. Eric Parker, so I guess that's the only time Eric Parker gets 80 or 90 catches in a season. Even though I'd have to say he's on pace for that. He definitely seems to be our possession wide receiver, besides, of course, our MVP basically on offense has been, well, for the most part, MJD. But when you want to talk about the passing attack, Roy Williams just seems to be the #1 target by far. The man's been outperforming at least what he ended up doing at this timeline of his career. Getting things done. What a beautiful move right there. I did actually press the cut move. So a couple of these things, it's like running a drag route and pressing the spin move and stuff. If you just time some of this perfectly, man, that CPU just shits its pants and you can't really do anything about it. Or at least the CPU can't do anything about it. But a beautiful move. I feel like some of the best runs of today. And speaking of, I don't know, what do y'all think is a cooler play? Deshaun Jackson's long little adjustment right there. Of course, when you got 98 speed and running down the field and the ball's thrown a little underthrown, that's going to be the case. Or is it Michael Clayton pulling out his bag of tricks that he apparently left in Baltimore and never used again? And I guess Tampa Bay for that to add on to that as well. But what do y'all think is the best play of the day? I think that catch was just absolutely nasty on that one by Mr. Michael Clayton, who has really been a decently big threat. Eric Parker isn't very big. Deshaun Jackson, for the most part, really isn't that big at all. I mean, that's a dude that's lucky to weigh $190 at all. Maybe even lucky to weigh like $180. It's nice to have Michael Clayton to help out with the size advantage that we have with Roy Williams, especially when Roy Williams is off the field. Still don't know why they would have some star players come out like that. But it is what it is. We're trying to just have the substitutes play a big role in this as well to make it a little bit more realistic. Even though in real life, some of these stars play every single snap. But I digress. It is whatever. What am I bitching about? This team's marching their way down the field. Martin, a guy that I think at the beginning of the season, we involved him quite a bit in the offense. But it's really led to a little bit more Eric Parker getting involved, trying to get Deshaun Jackson in his second season in this offense on this New York Jets team since the draft to be able to utilize. And this is the craziest play of the game. I'm not going to say it's the best play of the game, but this is the craziest play of the game. Rude gets the fumble recovery. I thought he was going to be put into field goal position. He was just, surprised me on that speed, and then that shit happens. But Deshaun Jackson taking his man out of the equation right there. I don't even think Deshaun Jackson knew that Jason Campbell was making his way out. But Mr. Haynes, again, two of the best runs of the day are by the backup running back, Mr. Haynes. I thought it was Pierre Thomas making these moves, but hey, it is what it is. Maybe the defense just wasn't focusing on him because we didn't have our technically most talented best player in there. And speaking just talent and a lack of talent is the awareness by myself and Jason Campbell on that pass. Not good whatsoever. Maybe it is being a little bit more advantageous considering you are up 17-0. Your defense is playing lights out. And I was surprised, not all too many sacks. I think a lot of times Matt Moore was just getting chased and decided to run. And right here, it was just bad touch on my part. I think the defense also, too, and just this difficulty just jumps on a lot of plays that I don't think a lot of players are aware of it. Excuse me. Whew. Just ate some chicken, and I seasoned that. I wasn't going to fucking cut myself short. Was seasoning that chicken. And that spice hit the back of my throat right there. But excuse me, fellas. Continuing on, just a little bit more advantageous. Should have made a couple of these passes a little bit better, even though the defense just comes out of nowhere. Seems like they're playing man, and then they technically are playing man, and then when you make the throw, it seems like both of them are like, nah, psych, bitch. We're fucking running this cover 3 out of nowhere, even though we're 30 yards apart from each other. Doesn't make any sense. Same thing with Asamoah right here, having 2 pick 6 opportunities. That's a pick 6. I know Dustin Keller is very athletic at a Purdue for tight end, but that man ain't catching a dude who's got one of the top speeds, not D'Angelo Hall speed, but a guy who's a shutdown corner because of his speed and his awareness. And the dude's got like 74 catching. That's like the equivalent of having like 95 hands as wide receivers. There's just not much you're going to get done right there or stop that man once he makes the interception. But I digress. Making our way down the field right here, Jason Campbell and company. Going to throw it to Roy Williams. and then that animation takes place. But it is what it is. Field goal kicker, Mr. Headley, or Nedley, is going, or Ned Nee, gets 3 more points on his day, 8 points total by the man itself, and then a turnover on down is going to basically end the game. We will look at the stats, though. Beautiful shutout by this Jets defense. I think it's one of the best defenses in football. I think the one thing that may be the downside of this team is injuries on offense. Might be the production of this offense, the efficiency of this offense. But for right now, we got a couple studs on offense, and we definitely have a solid defensive unit with that 3-4. Jamal Williams is always a beast. Robinson, DN, and Green. Robinson out of University of Texas, who played well with the Vikings back in the day. I think it was a cross from Jarrett Allen. And it's just a solid defense overall. I'm liking this team. It's been performing quite well, as you can see right there on 5 attempts. Man's injury prone, and he's still getting this shit done. But I'm looking forward to it. I know now we're starting the season up with the Madden 09 user-drafted Philadelphia Eagles, who it's pretty interesting. A man, Vince Young, has won 2 straight MVPs, but at the same time, he's not a part of this Super Bowl winning team, ironically enough, as he was injured, I think. Right? I think he was injured for the game, or at least injured at the early part of the game. It was a pain in the ass. No, he's injured for the playoffs. He had the broken elbow. Tavares Jackson started. Tavares Jackson had to rely on a lot of running with him, and then it ended up costing me as he ends up getting injured himself. But it is what it is. Looking forward to this Jets franchise. Solid outing right here. I'm going to have to check to see if Matt Moore is actually the starter on this offense, because the man was running around a little bit too much, and it kind of makes sense because y'all remember when Dupree just ripped his head off in the playoffs? I do. As always, fellas, take it easy.